Yeah.
Yes. Okay then. Oh, very good then. Right. Thank you. Very, very prompt. So first item there, apologies for absence, Emma.
Yeah, I've had apologies from Councillor Fuller, Councillor Hutton and Councillor Oakes.
Okay, we're all happy to accept the apologies?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay then, thank you. Declarations of interest? I can't think of anything on my own part, but I reserve the right to declare it if it comes along. Yes,
Yeah,
Ian.
I'm a resident of St Peter's Road, just in case.
Okay. All right. Public participation, Emma? Anybody?
No, nothing.
No. Okay then. And requests from interested parties, and
No.
there's still none. Right. Right. First one then is the road scheme, and despite spending 3 months on a one-way system, an instant one-way system pops up like this. So, okay, open to the floor for comments. Have you all read it?
Yeah.
Peter?
Good system.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm very happy with it, having read it. I think it's very sensible.
Yep. Okay. And Ian?
I suppose at some point when we walked around the town, there was some discussion about protecting the other side against the wall against Bramston Garden as well.
Right.
With concerns about pupils coming out of Bramston House into the marketplace, their only option is to come out of that gate. So I was just wondering if there's any thought about putting a pedestrian protection on that side, or even just some traffic cones so people can walk up and down on different sides of the street, which I think is what Highways mentioned when we first walked around.
Is there a room?
Don't know. I think the idea was there's a pavement there already, but there's the pavement stops just near the Bramston gate, and if that sort of space continued down the side of the wall, people could walk down that way or up that way from Co-op and miss the queue altogether.
I fear from the plans that I've seen that it would be too narrow for the heavy traffic that would have to go down there. I think the Bramston guys might have to be encouraged to cross the road into the pedestrian zone and not use that small piece of pavement because it'll be dangerous.
Fair enough. I suppose it just depends whether the people in the pharmacy queue want 60-odd adolescents walking past them 3 times a day for meals, because they're going to have their meals down opposite the church. So
what sort of times will they be moving? Day, or will it just be at one?
The extended meal times, the lunchtime will be sort of any time from 12:45 to 2, I suppose. There'll be 2 groups of 30 each time.
I'm sure you guys will drum into them the need for social distancing. They shouldn't be responsible, I would have thought.
Yeah, I think so. But on the other hand, because they're in a household, they'll be going in groups of 2 or 3 years, and
are they not wearing masks?
They probably will. Yeah, I think the conversation we had that was raised was allowing more normal people, not pupils, to go up and down on different sides. But I was just going to raise if they've dropped it for a reason or whether it's just got forgotten. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, certainly as I look at it, the road is extremely narrow. If they're going to take one lane out for the pedestrians on the other side, if you think it's viable to fence it off and still keep a passage, then let's fight for it.
Well, it's just a matter of whether Highways had looked at it or not, because it was a conversation that I'm not sure got passed through. But if they'd rather not, or they don't think they can, then such is life.
Well, should we go back then with a question to them? Yes, please, Emma.
Yeah.
Because if the road is wide enough, then it is a very sensible option there.
And if it's not, then it's not wide enough.
No, then we've got to make sure it's safe for the kids to cross the road, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Clive.
I mean, there are HGVs go up and down that road, so I mean, obviously they've taken that into one would assume that they've taken that into consideration when the planning. I mean, is it all who's financing it?
Highways. They have a fund for works like this that are COVID related.
When will it disappear? We don't know. I mean,
no, it'll be there for as long as it's needed.
Right. Okay.
Right. Okay. So we go back to them with that particular question then, because they might have overlooked that how important that gate was.
If they come back and say, you know, they can't do it for whatever reason and it's a valid reason, are you okay for me to say that the council's happy for them to go ahead with the rest of it?
I am. Anybody else got any questions?
Can I just ask, is this
Yeah.
intended to be temporary, or is this ultimately a permanent change?
It's COVID related, so it's to prevent the queuing outside post office and pharmacy affecting people. Ian and I have stood there with members of East Northampton Council when you've actually seen people having to step into the road.
Yeah.
I understand all of that. My concern is that temporary measures sometimes become permanent.
Yeah.
And our view about it might be rather different if the situation was going to be permanent than if it was temporary. That was my only thought.
No, I think the document that as I read it, said the word temporary. The word temporary was in there. Yes, I do agree with you that temporary can become permanent, but then it's about a pedestrian footway rather than a one-way system. So I think that we could, you know, quite say we're happy, and in our approval, it is for a temporary, you know, situation whilst the COVID situation continues.
Totally.
Yeah, it mentions twice it's temporary barriers, so it's
temporary works at St.
right, you know, highly fluorescent.
I'm reading it as you're saying.
Yeah, no, I think David's point is valid though. It's quite often they start off as temporary and then they become permanent. So we just make sure that we're approving a temporary change.
Yeah, I mean, just the point of that, I think I've mentioned before, at the beginning of the COVID thing, we went to Stratford-on-Avon, and their temporary changes to their pathways were very, very permanent. And they were digging holes and moving curbstones to make two lane. So yeah, we have to keep an eye on that, I think.
Yep. Okay then. Right, so that is a consideration, and we're happy we've considered it. Yep, thank you. Right, received the update on the skate park following the ROSPA inspection.
I haven't had the report come through yet, but I just sent you the defect notice, which
oh right, so yep.
The full report hasn't come through, and I think the Estates Committee looked at a quote that we'd had from the company that we used to repair our play equipment, but we've also been contacted by a man called David Childs from Ramp Child Limited, who's based in Kettering, where I think some of the kids that play in there had actually contacted him to see if he could do something to help. So Lisa's going to arrange for him to come over and have a look.
Okay.
His opinion.
Yeah.
For the half pipe.
Right, Peter.
When was the Estates Committee sitting? Because I'm head of Estates.
Oh no, this is pre-lockdown.
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah.
That's before your last birthday, Peter.
Sorry?
Before your last birthday.
It probably was, yes, most definitely.
Yeah. But the ROSPA report, you know, almost reads like you need a couple of screws in these corners and we're all right.
Yeah.
No, it's that was just one particular area which we hadn't looked at that she picked up. But the major part of it is on that pipe in the middle.
Yeah.
The wood has sort of bubbled up, but as she was, I mean, we did it in the absolute pouring rain. As she was standing on it, you could hear as if like rusty metal crunching underneath, and all this brown water was out. So I think there's some issues even underneath the boarding as well.
Yeah.
I understand from John that the metal sheets underneath need replacing as well, but he thinks he can get them for about £24 a piece.
Yeah, but what we've got to do is have somebody who
knows what they're doing first.
Things.
Yeah.
Come and have a look, and because once we lift those boards up, we're not going to be able to put them down again.
Okay.
We are convinced that the metal underneath it is rotten, needs to be replaced as well.
I've just looked at the Ramp Child website. It looks pretty good.
Yeah.
When I was talking to the users, they said that the damage at the moment is in some pretty key areas. So I think, you know, it's We've got to get it fixed one way and the other.
Absolutely.
The other important thing is that they like the half pipe itself. So if we can keep it going and then add to the part later on, brilliant. But it's a fairly unusual thing to have of its sort, apparently. So
Yeah.
we're big fans.
But I think the priority is that, getting it up and running again, even
Yeah.
if it's a temporary fix.
And it is being used a lot at the moment.
Yeah, and although I haven't seen the full report, she didn't say anything about any of the other skate park equipment at the moment. So, that was a good thing, because if she'd have picked out major issues with quite a bit of it, then we would have been looking at something very expensive. But if it is, I mean, it is still going to be quite expensive.
Mm.
We can have it fixed and it's going to last for a while, then that'll be a good thing.
Yes. Okay. Right. Next one then is the application for premises. The Anvil News is turning into an off license.
Sorry,
Yeah.
can I just ask another question on the skate park?
Yes, sorry, Ian. Yes.
It's okay. When I went down and met I met a few users, one by arrangement and a couple by accident, and I've kept an eye on it since then as well. And I sent that report round as well, which I hope everyone's seen. We're going to advertise in the next advertiser, which comes out next week, asking for anyone to come forward with any ideas to improve the skate park. And hopefully with those ideas that might come from that and the ideas we already have, it would be really nice to put something together that we can start getting some expert advice, maybe talk to Adrenaline Alley, and maybe this guy from Kettering, about how we can improve things. The general view is that a lot of what we got is pretty good, but we need to move it and then move it again every few months, and then add a few things. And the tarmac surface is a real problem for lots of the riders that we need to look at and solve easily, maybe. And then this idea of a pump track, which is something that scooters, skateboards, bike riders can all use, and maybe coming up with some sort of ability to develop that, maybe as something to engage some of the users with. There's lots of projects around the country where lots of groups get together and make them themselves and just get them finished professionally. So I hope the idea was that we as a council would support the idea of continually improving the skate park as well as we can, and engaging with the users. They were keen and eloquent in what they were talking about. They weren't asking for the moon.
All right. Clive, sorry.
Just an extra one on that pump track thing, Ian, is we have that, there's a sort of bit of wasteland on the rugby pitches just across the corner. If you look diagonally across from the rec into where the rugby pitches start on the bottom of Occupation Road, there's a sort of area there. I mean, those pump tracks usually take up quite a lot of space and are, inventive about the hills and half pipes that they build themselves. I mean, is that something we could develop as well? I mean, I think it's fantastic that we should push it, but maybe we should give it, try and get the town involved and have an area of land that they can develop for themselves.
I think one idea is that if you look at the pocket park, it's there, and then there's a skate park there, and there's some trees sort of backing onto the skate park towards where the supermarket used to be a long time ago. And one idea that I raised and they talked about was having a small version there, almost as a trial, to see if people liked it, to get 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds on push scooters and push bikes doing it. And then if there's a keenness, because there's a really big one in Adrenaline Alley, apparently, if there's a keenness, then we might look to develop someone somewhere else. But the idea is, sort of baby steps, trial it first, and then maybe develop something bigger. But at least all in one location.
Brilliant. I mean, mainly that's just so I've got answers if anyone asks about it. It's something that we are developing and is an offering back to the town. It's a town initiated thing that the town can be involved with. I think that's important.
With the ROSPA report, obviously they're quite keen to get a solution to when it's going to be fixed. Are we in a position to say we've had the report, we're getting quotes?
I mean, we've already sort of we have sort of got one quote, but that was literally just to replace the boards. Like I say, Lisa's made contact with this other guy today, so hopefully he'll come out and have a look. I mean, if we can't, it can't be opened until it's fixed.
Mm.
Until the trouble is until we lift up and see what's going on underneath,
Yep.
determines, I think, how how long it's going to take to fix. I can't really give a time scale at the moment, but we know it's we've got to get it done straight
But
away. So
our next chance to approve expenditure is the 15th.
yes, I mean if we could have something for then, it would be great.
Okay. So can I tell
I
them?
think we've already got one quote though, because we've already got the RPM quote.
I knew we have got some cash allocated for it, haven't we?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, we did. We agreed at our previous meeting to spend the
Yeah.
money for temporary repair. So it's only if it goes above that budget
Yeah.
should it be held up.
But
So
I
I
think,
can-
whatever, are you saying that a temporary repair, as soon as we start looking into it, it's not going to be enough money?
I don't know. I absolutely don't know.
Until somebody lifts those boards, we don't really know what the costs or what's
No,
involved.
Well,
we
we've
don't-
got an idea of cost. As Peter said, we've looked into the metal sheeting, and if we can get that replaced, that's
Right.
relatively cheap. So we have the quote for replacing the wood.
Yes.
I would just like to speak to this other guy from
Okay.
Rampchild, because I like the look of his website, and the company that
It's really cool.
we're using to fix it, the first quote, they fix lots of different pieces of equipment, whereas he is more of a he specialises in skate park.
All right.
Fine. Fine.
Right, Ian.
The other nice thing, just looking at his site, is he seems to have a wide range of the sort of stuff that we might look to in
Yeah.
the future. So it could be the
Yeah.
beginning of a really good relationship.
That's why I really want to get him to come in and have a look.
Yeah, sounds sensible.
Right. So before I try and move on again, we've finished on the skate park. We're fine. Okay then. We've lost one of us. Oh, he's come back.
No, sorry, I've got a sort of meeting that I was got to do tonight as well. So carry on. I'm listening.
All right. Yeah, we wouldn't be allowed to do that in council chambers, Councillor Peel.
Yeah, I know, but we're not in council chambers.
Yeah, your head looks very good from where we're sitting.
Pandemic benefit.
Well,
Right.
shining, actually. I've got a bit, anyway.
Well, you said the moon's just come up.
Well, there you go. You see, that's how good it is. Wednesday, Thursday.
Right. Right. So the back to Oundle News then, changing into an off license. So it did look like a little bit more than a license to sell alcohol. It just looked like they were changing the whole purpose of the business.
Yeah.
David, it's your territory.
Well, it's not so much that. It's just that having another licensed outlet, more or less opposite a licensed outlet in terms of Tesco's, and within spitting distance practically of a local public house, just seems to me to be overkill. I can't really see why there needs to be yet another off license in the centre of town. You can buy alcohol quite easily at the Co-op. You can buy it at Tesco's if you want it from an off license, and you can buy it obviously at the pub. So I can't really see why we should be encouraging yet another outlet for the sale of alcohol in the centre of town, Frank.
Agree with you. Peter?
I totally agree with David. I honestly think that with Amps as well, because Amps is just down there. I know
Absolutely.
it doesn't open at night too much. I think there's too much there. I mean, or we're going to be saturating the town with off licenses. And don't forget, Tesco's are open, what, till 10, 11 o'clock at night?
10 o'clock, yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the point of another one? Seems
I
crazy
couldn't
to
quite
me.
understand their business case that they were going to put forward, to open an off license opposite an established off license. Were they going to reduce prices to compete?
I don't think it matters if they're going to compete. I just have a fear that there'll be more people drinking at a younger age.
Yeah. Okay. Clive, anything to add?
In some ways, I have an ambivalence to it. I mean, I agree completely with arguments on both sides, and my fallback position is as David's already. I don't see the I didn't see the relevance. I didn't see the point of it. I don't know why they're applying. Presumably they need to generate more income from the shop because it's not making enough. So they're diversifying. I mean, if it was a little tiny kiosk and they were selling a couple of bottles of wine, then maybe that. But if changing it wholesale into a massive off license, I don't, I think it's crazy.
Right.
Nonsense.
Emma?
Do we know what time it shuts at the moment in the evening? Does it shut early?
Yeah, 6 o'clock, I'm sure.
Because I'm just
5
wondering
o'clock.
if this is another reason why they want to stay open later, because it just means a few more hours of it being open. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it says on here that it's open from 6 till 9.
Hmm.
6 in the morning till 9 at night. It will be
Yeah.
open.
I'm just going around the table. Malcolm, got anything
Well,
you'd like to add?
is it likely to develop into another convenience store and a direct competitor to Tesco's? They already sell bread and things there, and
Yeah.
where's the line going to be drawn?
Well, I think on the front of the shop in the layout that I saw, you could see quite clearly the off-license element of it and the soft drinks.
Yeah.
And then there was something at the back of the shop, like half the shop, but they didn't really describe what they were going to be selling in that half of the shop.
Yeah.
But it was
There's
the fact
lots of
that go on, Ian.
there's sort of lots of dry goods and so on. It looked like there was a lot of shop and a lot less news.
Yeah. So what have we've been asked to do here? I mean, you wanted,
Just give your opinion. Just give any comments.
okay. So I think in general, the feedback has to be that Anvil Town Council does not see the need for another off license in the town centre, and so we're opposed to the change of use.
I agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I agree. Right, that's me done there, sorted. Carry on now.
All right, just let Emma's finish writing. You
Yeah,
okay then,
I'm
Emma?
done.
So, yeah, thank you. Right, so into the Northampton North Unitary Council and how we try and rally the rural areas together. An awful lot of correspondence over the last few weeks, Peter. Well done.
That's all right. I've got another conversation with Paul at Cotterstock tomorrow,
Right.
the head of the parish council.
Yeah.
I've already got to say Upper Benefield's okay. It's looking as though Warmington and I think it's Nassington, I think they'll be on board.
Yeah.
Barnwell, I'm still sorting out that with Phil. Jake will be all right, hopefully, with sorry, not Jake. Hopefully David's been talking to Clapthorne, and I'm waiting on the people from Wadenow, Stoke Dawn and Pilton to come back to us.
Yep.
There as one council. And where else is there? I've talked.
Well, no, Ashton, certain parts of Ashton wanted to join Amble
Well,
rather than being
I'd
Ashton.
left Ashton because I knew that you were talking to them, so I
Yeah.
dealt with Ashton.
So I separate Ashton as a parish council from certain parts of Ashton that would want to make. But I don't see any problem with Ashton as well wanting to be involved. Clive.
Just a point. That's an interesting. One of the things I was going to raise is how far do we cast our net for this? Because we've got some friends in Titchmarsh and Wigthorpe out that side, and they're the people in Titchmarsh are actually thinking of selling and leaving because there's a large triangle of farmland that's just been sold, and for another huge housing estate just on the between Titchmarsh and Thrapston, as you come out on the 605. And they're, people are selling up and leaving and thinking about leaving already. So how far do we cast our net? Do we go out that direction as well?
Well, certainly, I think it is the whole rural area of the Northamptonshire area, and the Titchmarsh one I had seen, because I thought it was an industrial estate that was creeping in their direction. No, but I think it's the whole patch.
Yeah, I think that I think we have to resign ourselves in some respects to the fact that there's an inevitability about it all, but we want to get hold of it very, very early on to grab it, to make sure that the nature of rural Northants isn't destroyed by my pet hate, which is those little red boxes that all look the same. You know, famous Ticky Tacky song, you know, that are just put
Showing your age, Clive.
that are put all over the countryside. You know, that's the hideousness of it.
Yeah.
And it's done for profit. It's totally for profit.
Yeah.
Well, we've got Thorpe Waterville, obviously Wigsthorpe, Old Winkle, you see. I don't know about Islip or Thrapston, because I don't know if we could bring them into it as well. We'd have to talk to Thrapston Council on that. I agree with Titchmarsh. That's not a bad idea to bring that in. What we've got to try and do is actually incorporate people like Nassington, which they're interested in joining us in. Obviously, you've got sort of little communities around that side as well, which hopefully would join us. What we need to do, though, is get a structure that everybody understands and everybody will not agree with, because nobody's going to agree with everything. It's impossible. But if we can get that structure in, and I've already said in one of my emails, I don't think we're going to get a rural council, because the unitary legislation has already gone through, and they're not going to give another council. But we could get a large rural community stroke committee going, with everybody being equal and having elected, say, 5 or 6 people from the whole area to tackle the problems that we have going forward. And that includes new roads, because we need to have a road system put in, not just in Oundle, but round the outside. Because if we don't, we're going to be sort of smothered with houses all over the place. Okay. So it's a matter of getting this thing sorted. I mean, for instance, I was talking at the beginning about the Peterborough model, but as Ian said, I think that's probably a little bit too weak. We need something stronger to deal with these people. Obviously, you've got Mr. North, who's not inclined to like Oundle, but if all the other parishes were in the area, I think it would be too large for him to say, go away, we're not taking any notice.
Yeah.
So it is a matter of getting those people together. At the moment, I would say, without the elected members for the NCC or ENC, just the parishes, the independent people in the parishes first, and then see where we go from there.
Okay, Malcolm?
I've forgotten what I was going to say now. Well, the only thing was this business about roads. It's really a very minor point what you said about new roads. But don't forget there's public transport as well. And, you know, we may well be in a position with increased development for pushing pressure on the bus services to improve the bus services and so on. And try and avoid people using their cars.
Yeah. Well, what the good news so far is that, you know, in the past we've tried to do things like this and trodden on a lot of corns and had a lot of protests. But this time everybody seems very receptive, you know, to, you know, some action. Now, okay, at these stages it's very easy because, you know, everybody's got their own idea of what it's going to be, and they're all different. You know, once you start to get in some shape, it will become more challenging. The agenda item here is purely to get a working party agreed, you know, that we will have a working party. Carry on around the table then, Ian. I know you've been involved and found some good stuff out.
Seems an excellent idea, and it seems that starting it from the base upwards would be ideal. So maybe talking to Thrapston very early on and getting that whole rural north area represented. And if everyone feels that they have a strong say, like, you know, the Declaration of Independence, even the small states like Rhode Island felt that they were involved, that would be ideal. But also, I suppose we need to let the big wigs in Northamptonshire know, because there's no point doing this and in 6 months' time saying, hey, guess what we've done, if it's all too late to fit into their system.
Yes.
So it seems like we need to approach it from both ends at once.
Malcolm, you are there. Hello.
Yeah, I'm here, yes.
It's
I'm
switched
out
the
of,
light
out
off.
of darkness. But anyway, I'm not sure what we mean by a working party. Is that a working party for all the councils or a working party from Oundle Council? What are we trying to do?
Well, I think first off, this forum can only put a working party from Oundle Council.
Yeah, okay.
But in its
How many people
remit,
do you think we need?
we want to allow that working party to bring in representation from the other areas. So I'm quite sensitive that if we make this an Oundle thing, which is not a problem with Oundle Lead, but if it was an Oundle thing, then
Yeah,
it
I
might
agree.
have too much opposition. Emma.
Yeah, that's it might be worth me I'll send you the list of all the councils that are involved in the Oundle area parishes meeting, but because it seems as though that's the area that you're looking at. Now I've sort of come into those meetings that used to be run, I think Sean Matthews used to set them up, but I think they were set up so that the rural parishes could all get together, and I mean, I think one way where we did use them was they all came to the beginning meetings with regards to Northbridge, so they are always very keen, I think, to be involved, but like you say, I think they need to have some of those involved in that working party. I think it's just our town council working party. But it's how you because you don't want a representative from every parish, otherwise you'll
No, it becomes a committee.
too
then.
big.
No,
That's
the
how you-
idea is to talk to them all and then have them say, look, we think this chap from that area and this chap would actually be a good way of going forward. It's not for Oundle, as I said in my emails. I don't want them to feel as though Oundle is taking the lead. I want them to feel inclusive within a smaller committee which reports back. And Ian's dead right. We should write to Northamptonshire, the shadow, just to say what we're doing, because I think then we can, in I don't know, hopefully 2 or 3 months' time, we can actually sit down with them and say, look, we want to be more involved, and this is what we'd like. This is what we'd like moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Roads thing, by the way, is just something that I've tacked on because we all know that Oundle needs a new road system, both inside Oundle and outside Oundle. And without the parishes agreeing on the outside one, especially, it's not going to go anywhere.
Okay. Ian?
It strikes me that time's pretty pressing on this. Is it worth us setting up a formal working party, etc., but at the same time, Emma, if you just put a call out to all the parishes as soon as possible saying that's what we're doing and we'd like to get some people on board from the parishes and also someone on board from Frapston, so this doesn't become an Oundle thing, it does become a Northamptonshire rural whatever thing. And so from the very moment that it starts, it's bigger than just Oundle saying we want this, because that is more likely to put people's back up. And at least we've got a group already in the next few days, maybe, who are keen, so that we can all start from a fresh sheet of paper.
That's good. Clive?
Yeah, I think that's exactly my sort of mental plan of it. The other thing is that we need to know what their concerns are, of course, immediately. We can't rush forward independently. We need to have a meeting with all these people to see that we've got to get a common cause in some way.
Okay.
It just becomes too disparate otherwise, and we need to know, are their concerns the same as ours? I'm not even 100% sure what our concerns are. So we need to sort of have a meeting to get it, put some structure to it all first.
All right. Emma, then Peter?
Yeah, just on that, I think we need to work out how the meeting's going to go and what we want to do, and then I think because it's going to have to be a Zoom meeting, you're not going to be able to get everybody, and then also it's letting parishes know, and I don't know whether all parishes are having Zoom meetings, whether some have just not had any, but it's getting to all those people.
Okay. So I should, personally, I'll come just a minute, Ian, and I'll come to you. But personally, I feel that we possibly need a communication, an agreed letter that says this is what we're thinking about.
Yeah.
Then because that you can put out, much more personally to each of the councils, the parish councils, and tell them this is what we're thinking about. Come and join us. Yeah, Ian.
I was just wondering, when you meet all the parishes, Emma, do you have is it parish clerks or people fulfilling that role in every parish, or?
All correspondence will go to the clerk, but then with regards to those area parishes, it tends to be a clerk goes, but also a councillor, or two councillors go.
Is it worth just sending that letter, whatever it happens to be, that we can work out, to them almost immediately? Just saying, look, here's something we're talking about, and then they can have conversations, so that by the time, a Zoom meeting like this, to thrash something like this out could be pretty unpleasant, pretty hard. And even if we get to the point where 6 or 8 people from lots of different places have a sort of a common idea, that even if they just know they have concerns, but they don't know what the concerns are, at least they've got a common something to start.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sorry, Peter, I missed you before.
No, that's okay. Don't worry. I'm used to being missed by you, Tony. As I say, I've had lots of conversations now with lots of people in different parishes, and the most common cause of their concern is housing development and the roads getting clogged up. I mean, for instance, Paul in oh God, I can't remember. Cotterstock, Glapthorne, no, Cotterstock it was. He mentioned the fact that he thinks of Oundle being their town in the area. And the one thing he's worried about is that obviously the development of housing, etc., but also the roads coming into Oundle, because he's already seeing people now not coming into Oundle because they can't park, they can't drive, they can't get in. So I think it's a general melee of problems that we have, which accommodating really in the fact that they are all worried about more and more houses being built. I mean, that's one of the things, and that I've had conversations with, even in Upper Bennefield and places like that. They're worried about the amount of development in those places, and there are lots of little places like that do seem to be fairly concerned that although at this moment in time the housing is under control, with this new white paper, and we've obviously gone through the white paper now, I don't know if all of you have read it, but it is quite concerning in the fact that we've got to have, I mean, we mentioned, for instance, that our housing now is basically going to be 670 houses. We're not going to get the 320. We're looking at 670. And that's because we're not going to be able to stop that. But they're also asking, the government are asking for another 52% on top of that. So you're looking at over 1,000 houses just in Oundle. And we can't take that unless we get some sort of structure going all over. And that's why I think most parishes now are really, really worried about development on their doorsteps.
Yeah. All right.
And the roads, of course.
Yes. David, a bit more?
Yeah, well, several things, I suppose. I do rather worry about the idea of trying to do a Zoom meeting with what might turn out to be 20 or 30 people, representatives. I don't know whether it would be feasible to hold an actual meeting, because you could be social. I mean, you can hold a meeting which is socially distanced. I don't know what the maximum capacity of our main buildings are on a socially distanced basis, but I suspect that is ultimately more practical than trying to do it on Zoom. The second point, on a purely practical level, is that if we're approaching, let's say, 24 parish/town councils in the north area, and remember it extends all the way up to Easton on the Hill, so We're talking about a very big patch. The parishes themselves may not meet that regularly. So if an idea comes forward saying, would you as a parish be interested in doing it? Short of them convening some kind of an emergency meeting to discuss it, it could be that they won't discuss it for 2 months before we even get a feedback from some of them. Won't be from all of them, but it will certainly, I suspect, be from some. I don't know how we get over that, but it is absolutely vital, if this is going to be a pressure group with teeth, that it involves, or at least gives everybody the opportunity to be involved. The issues, as Peter says, are massive. And the reality is, and we've seen it all too clearly ourselves, that a town or parish council simply has not been able to stand up to the higher authorities so far as things like planning are concerned. You know, Oundle's been run over roughshod, Blackthorn was run over roughshod. Various other parishes would doubtless take the same view that it's happened or happening there. So I've no doubt that there is support for this. The question is simply the mechanics of how do we actually start to get people to talk, to develop some kind of an internal structure for that organisation, whatever we ultimately end up calling it. And I think it can be called anything except a council, frankly. And secondly, to understand what the areas are that this body is actually going to try and exert its pressure on the Unitary Council on. And we haven't got that long, because that Unitary Council is going to be in existence in a matter of, frankly, months. And we want to be ready so that the moment it exists, it knows it's going to have to kind of reckon with the rural north. But it's a question of the mechanics of it. I could see that Emma was shaking her head at my suggestion of having some kind of an actual meeting. Whether we could have, if a actual meeting with that number of people is not practical, whether or not one could have a meeting with up to half a dozen councils represented, with just one person from each, and have 4 of those meetings in order to cover 24 people. I don't know. I'm open to any suggestions. My fear is simply that if we're not careful, we'll bat up against other councils who simply will not be able to mobilise themselves as quickly as we want them to.
Okay, Emma?
Yeah,
And
I
Peter?
agree with what David has said. I'm not sure about how the logistics of getting. I certainly don't think we could get all the parishes involved in one room in a meeting. But if it's not really about that, you're right. A lot of them only meet every 2 months or whatever. You know, you could send an email tomorrow, but if you just missed their meeting, you're not going to get anything back for another couple of.
Okay. Peter?
Well, I mean,
Then Clive?
I
Mark
agree with
Malcolm?
David on that. I think what we've got to try and do is get the majority, and hopefully the others will see what we're doing and accept that. But I understand the 2-month thing, etc. I do understand that. In regard to a meeting, I'm with David on that. I think we should have a face-to-face meeting. I know, obviously, with the COVID thing, it is more difficult. But I mean, if you look at, for instance, I mean, the hall that I would say is big enough, not to hold 40 or 50 people, but to hold maybe 20 people comfortably and keep social distancing, is the QVH main hall. Because that is a lot bigger than any of the halls we've got in Fletton House.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure about the rules and the guidelines for this, because
We would have to check that.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But as long as I understand, we could get, you know, the social distancing in, I would have thought that'd be fine. Sorry, Ian. I didn't see
Well,
you.
Malcolm and then Ian.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to make exactly the same point about QVH. But I listened to the recording of the last meeting I missed, and you're talking about there was about 30 people in the Glackthorne room to do slimming classes. So,
Yeah,
you
we
know,
said that would note to that one. Yeah.
yeah, I know we did, but looking at the size of that compared with QVH, there's no comparison, is there?
But they've got, so long as everybody's sitting wearing masks, you can, but I mean, everybody that goes in that room wears a mask and doesn't take it off.
Fine.
So long as everybody's prepared to do that. But
Keep going around for a minute, Ian.
Just two things. Firstly, I've just spent a few hours over the weekend getting our common room socially distanced, and it's a room that's got seating for about 70 or 80, I suppose, and normally has about 150 people standing in it. The most we can get in it at the moment is 21.
Yeah.
2 meters is a frighteningly long area. I was measuring my classroom today. It's much longer than you imagine. And on that basis, the government guidelines are that you can't have a meeting of above 30 anywhere under any circumstances, etc. And I suppose the second thing is that I don't think we need to get everything tied off and tickety-boo. We need to just know if everyone in all the other councils doesn't want this, then it's not a runner. And similarly, if Northampton won't even talk to us about it, it's not a runner. But in a way, we've got to sort of almost pre-market the idea to people, find out if there's some interest, and then see what Northampton think. And if there's some interest, then we can start putting the flesh on the bones, as it were. But it seems that we can take some baby steps quite quickly and quite early.
Yeah. Peter, and then Clive.
I think Ian's dead right. We need to get the letters out and see what the response is. As I say, the response, but the letter needs to be sort of drafted in a certain way, and that has to be very. I wouldn't say it's not an easy letter to write, because I think you've got to sort of put things in there that you don't want to upset anybody by, but also you've got to put things in there that will actually make them think. You know, so that's a difficult letter to write, and I envy Emma not at all on that.
well, I was just going to say, I need a bit of help with this, because I don't fully understand what you want. So I get a gist of it, but I don't see that I don't see anything. Okay.
Let me just go around the table a little bit further and see if we get a volunteer. Clive?
And an immediate call to arms letter is what it's all about, and it has to happen immediately. And it's just a simple letter without frills, just some basic message, so we can get some feedback. That's all in my mind. That's all it requires, really. It's something that's quite simple, sets out our stand, because as Emma said, I'm not 100% sure what we're fighting for as a council. If I'm not sure, then no one else is going to know, because we've got to have one or two basic points that rhyme with everybody else's thoughts, just to get them thinking, get them back in and that they can respond to. I mean, it's a simple sort of like a Boris Johnson take back control. You know, it's something as simple as that. You know, it doesn't need to be any more complicated.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else?
I just wonder whether people would be happy with the mayor and I maybe sitting down and batting something between us and then putting it over to Emma. I don't think the letter is going to be that complicated to do, because it doesn't need to go into too much detail. Because all we really want to find out is there support for some kind of a multi-town/parish council pressure group in view of the impending change to a unitary authority. 2 or 3 bullet points about the sort of areas that kind of an organisation might feel able to have some influence in would probably be enough to spark a discussion and get some sort of a response back.
You've almost written the letter immediately, David.
Yeah, I was thinking.
Just those 2 or 3 recording that's the letter.
Yeah. All right. So look, leave it to that at the moment. I had asked to stay a little bit further back from this, but I'm quite happy to get involved in this level. David, do you want me to draft it and you edit it, or the other way around?
How are you time-wise? I'm actually away for a week from the weekend.
Right.
So if I'm going to get it done quickly, I've got to get it done over the next
Right.
two
You
nights.
do the first draft then, because I'm going to be tied up until at least tomorrow afternoon.
All right, I'll try and get, well, yeah, I'll try and get something out sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Okay then, Peter.
What recording
Do you mind
back?
if I put something in there as well and send it to you, and you can sort of combine the whole lot?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, by all means, I'm quite happy to receive any suggestions.
But
Which
I
applies
think
to
that
everybody,
the
not just
strength,
Peter.
yeah, the strength of this will be to keep it as vague as possible whilst we centre around the major bullet points. So keeping it nice and open. And I think just in terms of all these parishes are rather large. My analogy I use for these cases normally, it's a bit like churning butter. It's when the first bits of fat begin to form that the other ones form around them. So you get a nucleus, and you get more that gets around that nucleus. So at the moment, Oundle is the nucleus. It was really nice, as Peter mentioned before, to see in some of the correspondence that was going on over the last few days, so many villages saying that Oundle is our town as well. And it was so nice to see that they actually wanted to associate with Oundle. So there is some good news going on at the moment.
Yeah.
All right. So okay, Peter, if you need to get something in to David as soon as possible, and then
Well,
I'll do the edit.
I've got business meetings till about 12 o'clock tomorrow, but I'll get it in the afternoon.
All right, and then we'll try and get it all ready for Friday.
Fine.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So we're good on that one then. So we have a working party. Working party members at the moment are Peter and Ian. Are you on it? And Clive?
I'm
Maybe.
quite happy to be there.
Yeah, do too.
Malcolm, did you want to join it?
Sure.
Okay then.
It's everyone.
I'm quite happy to be part.
Excellent. So you've got 4 in a working party then.
We always have 5 because you need a vote, a casting vote.
Well, you
David,
get your
did you
5th
say
one
you
from
wanted
outside. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Very
Sorry,
good.
David, did you say you wanted to be involved as well?
Yeah.
Okay, that's your 5 then.
That's the 5.
Okay.
They are. See, sorted.
Lovely. Right then. We got the planning bit, have we? The ones that David did, and then the ones. Oh, they're all off now, are they?
Yes, Emma has pointed out to me, which I didn't know, that Lisa had very efficiently gained us an
Right.
extension of time to enable us to debate these at our meeting on the 15th.
Okay.
So we don't need to worry about them for tonight.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I dare say there'll now be 1 or 2 more applications
Yeah.
still to add to the, I think it's 7 I've already got. But
Yeah.
a joy in store for our next meeting.
All right. Clive?
Yeah, no, I just got a query. Well, we're still sort of thinking about the future and planning and things like that, where our minds are there. Has everyone read that NowGo planning thing that came through with the consultation questions at the bottom?
Yes.
Have you seen this? Have you?
Yeah.
No.
I haven't written.
And
No.
it has to be done by the 15th of October. And it comes from council. There's 26 questions that have that evidence. Is everyone going to have a go at answering that, or are we going to do it as a council?
I think it's a bit pointless. We all have individual
I
ones.
think you should do
Yeah.
it as a council.
Okay, so perhaps the first point of that is that we should each have a go at this and then put it all together, or have a meeting where we answer each of these questions.
We're sure we
I
did
know
on the 15th.
that's the most efficient one, or if we just have an Aunt Sally, somebody puts something up and then we comment around it.
Yeah, it's just I'm just curious as to know, we are going to answer these consultation questions, and we are going to because that's, for me, that's part of this planning. That's part
Yep.
of this ongoing thing. But we actually have a voice here, and there's lots of opportunities on these questions to actually say it's rubbish, it's crap. You know,
Yeah, okay,
let's
yeah.
sort it out.
Emma?
It
So
was
welcome
my
back, David.
intention to put it on the September 15th meeting. Now,
Okay.
I know that that meeting can sometimes, you know, we can have quite a long agenda, but I thought you can start looking then, and then depending on what happens, you can either then arrange an extraordinary meeting to cover it further if you want a bit more time. But we just got to make sure we get it done before the October deadline.
I mean, I'd be quite happy, you know, for the working party just to answer that a lot, you know, and put up, as I say, an Aunt Sally. Then here's some answers. You're happy with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be a lot quicker than having a council meeting to discuss them.
Where you go through them, it
Yeah,
will
it'll
take all
take
night.
forever because there's some of them are quite, you know, are quite discussion based.
Well, there's the first task of the working party. Answer the questions.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, seriously though, if you can come up with some answers to them and put them in on the 15th.
No, exactly. That's my point. I
Yeah.
think this is the perfect start point for us to start getting everything organised. Because at least what will happen is it will focus our minds and it will give us that baseline to start talking to the other parishes and other councils about. So let's get
Okay.
get it going.
All right, Ian.
Is it worth mentioning that document in the letter that goes out to parishes, saying that, you know, when they're having the same conversations we do, that's germinating
Yep,
ideas,
seems
maybe?
quite sensible. Yes.
So Emma, are you going to put that into it, Phil, into the 15th of September meeting or not bother? Or your sound's off?
Now, I keep muting myself, sorry. Yes, because it hasn't gone to a full council meeting yet. So for us to put in a response from the council, we do need to have it on a meeting.
Right. So
That's the earliest one.
It's got to be done immediately, in other words. Right.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Right, so we're on to other relevant matters. Just something for me first off that I would have liked to have opened this meeting with and forgot, and I do apologise. I did more formally wanted to thank Terry Stagg for his time on the council and, you know, all that he contributed to, and especially on those areas of finance, which I know that he'd had a very strong interest in. And I'm you know, sort of sad that we've lost Terry at this stage. But for those of you who weren't aware, he handed in his resignation about just over a month ago.
Do you give a reason?
Yeah, it was differences with what we were doing and the way we were going. You know, I tried to talk a little bit more with him about it, but he said he didn't want to.
Okay.
Right, just another one whilst I've got the ordinance, and I know David's aware of this, Emma, is that, and Peter, the situation at the cemetery and the planning, well, I don't know whether there was planning for the outhouse or not, but I've been there this morning and had a look. One of the people have put in a letter to us saying they're not very happy about what's happened there. And when I look at it, I am surprised that we would have given planning permission for what's gone on. But essentially, we sold a piece of land at the back of the chapel. Emma, sorry.
I don't think it needed planning permission.
I suspect, given the size of it, that might very well be the problem.
That's what he told me.
I only saw this email trail earlier this evening, and I haven't managed to do anything much about it. But I did see that I was actually the one who proposed that we should sell off this piece of land for £750 about 5 years ago. What I don't recall is whether or not, when the sale was actually dealt with, whether it sort of came back into council for us to look at whether or not we wanted to put any form of restrictive covenants on it. My guess is that we would have expected to have done so, whether that actually happened or not, I don't know. The problem is obviously it's too late now. If the land was sold 5 years ago and we didn't arrange to put anything on it to prevent things like this happening, we're stuck with it.
But you know, when you have a look at it, you know, the whole arrangement, the fence is, you know, less than a metre away from graves. The graves are higher than the prevailing land there. So this building, you know, is down, you know, almost at waist height to where the gravestones are. You know, it's a very sad situation that we've got ourselves into, because it does look like a you know, a blot on that part of the cemetery.
Just a point on that, Tony. I mean, I think this is a, you know, on it's one of those sort of thin end of the wedge situations where now that they're relaxing the we have to be, what I'm trying to say is we have to be more vigilant, I think, as David's sort of saying as well, is that now they've released the permitted development laws even more. So you can do, you know, you can have permitted development without planning 2 stories high and all the rest of it. You know, we've got to be ultra vigilant when things come across our desks or the council's desk. I don't mean, because I won't be here forever, but you know, the councils have to be more vigilant on this sort of thing, because it will get worse. This is just the beginning of free market free for all on as far as planning is concerned now. So it's an important thing.
Yeah, Peter.
I know we talked about maybe sort of camouflaging it maybe with some sort of bushes or a higher fence our side.
Yeah, but I don't know where would I think tonight I think we should put it on the agenda for the 15th, because we're talking about something that's not even on an agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the other thing was, well, is in regard to what David said about the selling, we might want to just check back with the solicitors to see if there was any sort of covenant on there to stop him from building that or whatever.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing on the deeds,
but it's worth a look, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'll put it on the agenda for the 15th.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So there was that. There was another one in my remit, and I've forgotten entirely what it was about now. But going around the table, Peter, anything to add?
Well, the one thing I sort of brought up with Emma today, and I've spoken to Nobby about it. There's 2 things actually. I'm waiting on the report from John to see if there's still water being used on the meter at Jones Strong Centre. I didn't manage to see him today because I was out when he was in, and I was in where I was at and he was out. So I'm going to try and see him tomorrow sometime. The other thing that's worrying me is the fact that Nobby is driving a van that was condemned by our own mechanics as not being safe enough for him to drive. I know the MOT's there and things like that, but he's been told that he's driving it basically on his own sort of risk.
Okay. Sorry, Emma, you want to come in on that one?
Yeah, this has only just happened in the last few days.
Oh, I know it has.
I am aware of it, and we are looking at it.
Right.
We should get the van fixed. Yeah.
Well, we're not going to.
No, we have to buy a new one.
New van.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Ian's idea of an electric van sounds good fun.
I think that's the next thing.
They're very cheap to run.
Yeah. Do they have electric vans? Do they
They
exist?
certainly do. Renault do loads. All their normal vans are electric, and now Ford do them, and
Brilliant.
Nissan have got a little electric one.
Let's lead the way. Jerry would be very happy if we went down that direction.
It's the cost.
Yeah. Carry on round the table then, Clive.
No, I'm fine, thanks.
Yeah, Malcolm.
Nothing.
All right, Ian.
The only thing I was going to mention was the outdoor speed watch.
Oh yes.
We've been told by the local constabulary that they're putting it all on hold again for the rest of the year, I think, until sometime in the future. So
Why?
safety, COVID, don't ask me.
Any excuse they can do, eh, dear.
So obviously there won't be any speed cameras floating around for a while.
Yeah, dear.
It's absolutely crazy, isn't it? You know, what is a safety issue for them not doing a speed check?
Bonkers.
Who knows?
Yeah. All right. Sorry about that. But it's just while got you on the table, really, the school seems to be doing an excellent job in keeping everybody informed of what they're doing. You know,
Yeah, I think the leaflet was meant to go out this weekend.
Yeah, I got mine. Mine came through.
Yeah, you've got some. A lot of people haven't, and apparently I've just checked this evening. There's been a delay, whatever. But I think the rest should be tonight, tomorrow, very soon.
Yeah.
And there are going to be some banners going up in certain locations around town. So yeah, and the more people communicate, and if people need the school to do something, they should get in contact and talk
Yeah.
to people.
Well, I think, you know, just that contact, you know, of who to contact at the school, you know, that, you know, if nothing else, if Emma knows who that is to contact in the school, so if anybody in the town has a concern, you know, we've got to ring back
You've
in.
got Rachel's contact details, and
with Rachel.
let me know. And
It is
I'm happy to
publicised
help
quite big on the leaflet. There is a big, thing on the back page saying if you have any problems at all, we're completely open,
Excellent.
and it puts the email address and everything.
Oh,
So
very good. Yeah. Okay. And David?
No, nothing for tonight, thanks.
You look like you're ready for a holiday.
That was a very big sigh, David.
have a good
I
holiday.
am ready for
David.
one, I can tell you.
All right then. Yeah. Okay, Emma, just to yourself. No, you have to take it off mute
I
if you
know.
want to swear at us.
Yeah, that's
no,
all
keep it on
from
mute
me.
for the swearing.
I'm just cutting out the background noise that you might hear. So
Or somebody building something, are they?
yeah.
Oh.
Screaming.
Swearing at the same time.
Well, I do have to confess that I've not been down the boardwalk yet, so I just need to go and do that one.
It's lovely. It's very popular.
nice.
Lovely.
Very nice.
A dog got lost there yesterday, so it's all hands on deck for dog hunting at the moment.
Absolute madness. All right then. Okay, well, thank you everybody.
Thank you.
Good session, and the next one is the 15th.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right then.
Thank
Thanks
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Yeah.